Hello everybody, the top of the morning to you on St Patrick's Day, and as my Irish grandmother would have said, and the rest of the day to yourself. 3 3/4 miles, 17 turns or corners. The names tell you all about the fact that this place has got history at every single square inch of the concrete and asphalt around that 3 3/4 miles. Passing and action areas at turn 1, turn 7. But followed my leader after the braking area for turn 10, but then another overtaking opportunity at turn 13, and then running down to turn 17, sunset. And if you've ever been here as the sun sinks slowly in the west, you'll know exactly why that is called sunset. Right into the driver's eyes. John Hindhaugh, Jeremy Shaw and Shea Adam down in the pit lane for our live free coverage in sound and vision via IMSARadio.com, and you can get the live video right there on the drop-down menu. No subscription required for that here in the States or further afield. And of course, we've got the audio running here at the track as well on 100.9 FM. Let's check in the pit lane straight away with Shea Adam. Good morning, Shea.
Good morning, John, and good morning to Nick Yellowly. That was a much better warm-up session, in effect, practice 4 for BMW. Seeing the two cars up near the top of the charts, at least for a brief moment, does that give you hope for this 12-hour race?
Yeah, I mean, only warm-up, so yeah, we don't know where we're going to end up in qualifying. Obviously, that's a longer session. When you've got to deal with a lot of traffic here and the tyres coming in, it's quite difficult to know where you are. But just listening into the debrief, it sounds like we made some improvements overnight in the right direction, which is good. So yeah, we'll see. Connor's going to take the wheel for qualifying, and yeah, hopefully we can be a bit closer to the front or at the front.
Connor knows how to put it on pole here. He's done it before back in 2018 in the GT class, so that's at least good for you guys. What did you learn in between Daytona and coming here to Sebring that's helped you get a more competitive race car?
Yeah, I think quite a lot. I mean, the engineers had a hell of a lot of data to go through from Daytona. This was the most amount of running we'd done with the two cars combined by a long way at Daytona. So we were able to trawl through all that, start putting pieces together, which I think was really good. Then we had the test, obviously, a few weeks ago here, where we were able to try out some of that and definitely making steps forwards. It's just piecing it all together and making the car really drivable, and that's what we're trying to concentrate on for obviously the 12 hours here, as this circuit can really bite you if it's not easy to drive.
Yeah, but if it chooses you, it's something magical.
Exactly right. Yeah, and hopefully we're the ones this week.
Good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
So for those of you perhaps who are just joining us here at the track on this fabulous Fast Friday, Jeremy Shaw and Shea Adam with John Hindhaugh will just bring you up to date with what's been happening. The IMSA WeatherTech SportsCar Championship hit the track for the first time only on Thursday, so they've had quite a truncated run to this point. Their last run in a fairly untidy session yesterday evening, which was meant to be the hour-and-a-half night-time session. They get the laps in full darkness, and point of fact, I think we barely got 30 laps in that session, where you'd have expected at least probably twice as many of that if the teams wanted to do them. Several red flags left that a bit fractured. Before that, Jeremy, it's been pretty plain sailing for most of the teams. One or two little accidents and incidents. The biggest problems coming, as we mentioned in that 10-minute session beforehand, for the two Acuras at the front of the GTP field, but they ran cleanly this morning at least. Chasing electrical problems is never something you want to hear going into a big race.
No, it's not, particularly when you've done a fair bit of testing and you think everything's working fairly well. I mean, this is always a place that's going to be really, really hard on equipment and drivers because of the bumps, because of the nature of the circuit. But I think the problems that the Acuras had yesterday certainly took the teams a bit by surprise, and there's some finger pointing going on, I gather, as to why the changes were made when they had something that actually worked here. And this place, you want to know everything works.
It would be good to come with a known quantity, I think.
Yeah, there you go.
Acura, one of the only manufacturers, I think the only manufacturer in the GTP ranks that didn't do a long distance test. However, their long distance test was fairly successful at Daytona, with both cars completing the distance, not without some little issues. I think the first car that didn't have an issue was the Chip Ganassi Cadillac. They ran pretty clean, but didn't quite have the pace of the Acuras at the front of the field. Revisit that later on when those cars are out on the track. Format for this is dead simple. It is 15 minutes for each of the categories. It has been split slightly differently. GTD Pro and GTD, the red number plates and the green number plates all going out together. Then it will be 15 minutes for LMP2 and LMP3. And then we get the last 15 minutes for just the GTPs. And remember, for the GTs, it is now open driver choice. Just to underline that, Shea, Adam, you can give us some news about some of the drivers in the GTD cars in particular.
Well, I've just seen 2 BMWs strolling down the pit lane, the first of which was the 95 Turner Motorsport BMW. That has Bill Power making his 100th IMSA race weekend as far as the merge is concerned. He's behind the wheel of the number 95. We've got Jan Halen behind the wheel of the number 16 Wright Motorsport Porsche. 2 times a pole sitter in the last 3 years is Jan Halen. We've got Patrick Gallagher behind the wheel of the number 96 Turner Motorsport BMW. Madison Snow is currently piloting the number 1 Paul Miller Racing BMW. Phil Ellis in the number 57 Windward Racing Mercedes. And I don't recognize the helmet behind the 023. It must be Alessio Rivera behind the wheel of that. No, it's not?
No.
Wait, he's just leaving the pit lane. Now he's triggered the exit. What does it say for Triarsi Competizioni?
Oh, no, you're right. It is. It wasn't him that brought it in, though. It is Alessio Rivera.
Yep, and I believe that was Mick Grenier for the number 32 Team Cawthorpe Mercedes just exiting the pits. And we do have a nice gap on the racetrack as the first car coming out of turn 17 now means that it should not get any traffic. Who is that? That is an Acura. That's Danny Formal for Harrison Contracting for the number 93.
Thank you, Shea. Shea will be talking to our pole sitter in approximately 15 minutes' time when the session is over. What sort of times should we be looking for here, Jeremy, in GTD and GTD Pro? Whilst you're looking that up, I'll remind everybody the cars are identical, so if you got your best driver in, there's absolutely nothing to say that a GTD car couldn't be the fastest GT. It's happened, and GTD cars, it's a little more difficult to win the races, but they have done. GTD car in the shape of Gradient's NSX won at Motul Petit Le Mans last year, and we had a GTD car, which remember has to have a non-pro driver lineup or partially non-pro driver lineup. They won at the Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona as well in the end of January. What times are we looking for?
Well, the fastest time we've seen yesterday, this week, was at 2 minutes 0.4. That was set in this morning session by Daniel Serra in the number 62 Racing Competizione Ferrari. He is out there qualifying now, so that would be the quality sim this morning. So that's the fastest time we've seen so far. The fastest in GTD non-pro was at 2 minutes 0.8 by Michael Grenier yesterday, although I think he might have gone a little bit quicker this morning. The fastest time in this morning's session was in GTD non-pro was it was again Michael Grenier 2 minutes 0.8 again, so that seems to be the benchmark time. Last year's pole qualifying in GTD was a 58.7.
Wow.
For Daniel Serra. That was a record, actually, I should say, back in 2018. The fastest lap last year in qualifying was at 1 minute 59.7. We haven't got anywhere near that this time.
It's Daniel Juncadella going out in the WeatherTech Mercedes, the number 79, and Klaus Bachler being bolted into the number 9 Pfaff Motorsports Porsche. He's not been here before. All of his previous 7 starts in IMSA competition have been at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. It's a full season for Klaus this year, which he'll be dovetailing with duties at the Nürburgring and other Porsche driving duties around the world. So he's going to have some fun this year going to new tracks. It's always lovely to go to a new track. And for someone who's been around for a little while, like Klaus, not to have raced at places like WeatherTech, Raceway, Laguna Seca, 6 Hours of the Glen. He's going to Long Beach as well, of course, isn't he? So that's going to be interesting. I'm thinking about some of the classic road circuits here. Watkins Glen, Laguna Seca, Michelin Raceway, Road Atlanta, Road America, VIR. Oh, he's going to have some fun this year. And I think he'll take that challenge in his stride, if I'm absolutely honest. Still waiting for the fast laps to come in. It'll take a couple of laps. We've seen this develop over the last few years. It started with the old GT Le Mans cars that used to bring their tyres in over a couple or 3 laps, depending on the venue. And although everyone is on a spec Michelin tyre here, Michelin been working very hard with IMSA. We've cut down the amount of tyres that you are allowed for each event weekend. The tyres are more durable. They are meant to be able to double stint across all the classes. Indeed, you have to, because you don't have enough to throw a brand new set on through every pit stop of the race, even if you are running green all the way through. So some teams slightly different in terms of their setup, but there are advised caster and camber levels as well as minimum pressures to be followed from Michelin, who supply all the tyres to the IMSA competitions and series that are here this week.
Now we're getting serious. Antonio Garcia jumped to the top with a 2 minutes .091. That was about a minute ago. Since then, Jack Hawksworth has gone faster still. First guy into the sub 2 minute bracket this week. A 1:59.826 for the number 14 Lexus.
Track conditions: 63 Fahrenheit, 17 Celsius. So not too bad. Maybe another 2 or 3 degrees would be okay. Anything up to sort of 30 degrees Celsius is pretty decent. You just want the balance between the air temperature and the track temperature. When the air's a little cooler, and the air at the moment is 64 or 18 Celsius. When the air's a little cooler, it's, as the old drag racers used to say, the air is fat. It's a bit more dense, and with a bit more oxygen in it, you can produce a little more power because you can feed more fuel into the cylinders, and all these cars have very sophisticated direct fuel injection systems.
Conditions are just fantastic, I think, at the moment. No, it's perfect. It's just about perfect. And the order right now, we've got Lexus, Ferrari, it's just changed. Lexus, Ferrari, Mercedes, Chevrolet, Porsche, then a Mercedes, then a BMW, then a Lamborghini, then an Acura. It was ridiculously close. There were 7 manufacturers very briefly in the top 7 positions. It's now the Antonio Garcia who goes fast. It's a 1:59.7. He's been eclipsed by Jack Hawksworth, a 1:59.582 for the Englishman.
And we had Kyle Marcelli up to second in GTD, 4th overall for a moment, but now Aaron Telitz has just bumped him down. Every lap now is an improvement for everybody. Hawksworth goes through with a 59.5 and pulls out a 10th and a half. Antonio Garcia in second for Corvette Racing. He's got 2/10 on Heart of Racing's Alex Riberas. Then Daniel Serra in the Ferrari is another 3/10 further back for Risi.
Yeah. And he's 5 thousandths ahead of Michael Grenier, who's fastest in GTD. Well, he's equal fastest in actual fact, because Aaron Telitz has done exactly the same lap, 1:59.944, but Grenier did it first, so he is on top at the moment.
Top 10 GT cars, a mix of 4 GTD Pros and 6 GTDs, separated by 6.5 tenths of a second, and that goes down to Madison Snow for Paul Miller Racing, currently 6th in GTD. This is tight. The number crunchers do a cracking job. IMSA Technical we had again last year, Jeremy, just another banner year for parity within this category. Somebody's just improved there. That was Daniel Juncadella for the 79. Now he was a lap or so behind everybody else. He's got up to second, and now it's .053 between first and second. And Phil Ellis for Winward Racing gets amongst the GTD pros.
Looking to score that team's second consecutive pole position, on pole at Daytona last time out as well. So it's now Lexus, Mercedes, Acura, Chevrolet. There's somebody in the tyre wall though.
And as the dust clears out on the far side of the circuit, we'll get a red flag with 4 minutes to go. Oh, it's Klaus Bachler in the plaid Porsche. His first visit to this circuit. And given the qualifying duties, he was down in 20th position, 8th in class for Pfaff, and that's a big one at turn 1. You don't have a small one at turn 1 in qualifying, and he's buried into the tyres right on the exit. My guess from the way that car's gone in, which is engine end first, which in a Porsche 911 GT3R, a new 992 car, that's a big bump in the middle of turn 1, and that will have swapped the ends on the car. That's my guess on that car. The tyre wall's done its job, huge amount of dust, but there is damage on the front of that car as well. Maybe it's been turned around by the impact. The most important thing is that Klaus is all right. No other running for IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship until morning warm-up tomorrow. So this is a horrible thing to say, but all day today and into this evening available for Pfaff to rebuild that car, and it's going to take some work. The bonnet has sprung open. We've seen that a couple of times with this. It was Kai von Berlo, wasn't it, who planted it in the tyres last night for the Kenny Moss Riley concern. That car, by the way, stripped down even before we had left last night, and Bill Riley saying it will be repaired. The von Berlo car will be repaired. And in fact, has it been out?
Yeah, it has been out.
Yeah, so they work brilliantly well. Well, the back of that car is nowhere near as badly damaged as I thought we were going to see on the driveway Pfaff Porsche. He's dug right the way through that sienna or ochre coloured sand on the exit of turn 1. Now, was he on his own, and was it the bump to blame? Let's find out. Yes, it was. Got a tiny little bit wide. It was left front and then rear into the multiple stacks there. He was just off the racing line by maybe half a car's width. Turned in perhaps a tiny little bit too late. The bump is worse there, and he was coming in at very quick speed. Yeah, it's going to be the left front, I think, Jeremy, that's going to need the remedial work from the Pfaff mechanics. Probably steering arms and suspension there.
Yeah, whole driver's side there, heavily into the tyre barrier. That would have a big impact for the for Klaus Bachler. He's out of the car okay, that's certainly good to see, but there's going to be quite a lot of repair work needed to that car in order to get it ready for tomorrow. But that's the end of the session then, so a pole position.
We did get 10 minutes, but not 12. Are we guaranteed 10 in the 15-minute sessions? I think we are, yes. So that was with just under 5 minutes to go. So we have had the guaranteed 10 minutes of green flag. So that session, this is unofficial from me, but I think that session is official, i.e. those times will stand, which means that Corvette Racing, Jeremy Shaw, will be on pole position, and Antonio Garcia and the team have been informed of that because he's heading towards Shea. It'll be Vassar Sullivan, Lexus on the outside of the front row, then WeatherTech Racing on the inside of row 3, then the GTD pole sitter. We don't split the classes here, it's as you qualify. So the checkered flag is out. Antonio Garcia, thumbs up as he's removed his gloves already down at the far end of pit lane, and Shea Adam is waiting for the Corvette driver to be with him. Kyle Marcelli celebrating for Racers Edge Motorsport their GTD pole position, and he'll be on his way down to Shea as well. Shea, Adam, lovely morning and a great result for Corvette in that number 3 car.
Yeah, it really was. For Antonio Garcia, this is his 9th career pole position, and I have interviewed him here before, standing in this very box. So for Garcia, coming back to Sebring, a very welcome thing, especially considering that they are the defending race winners in the GTD Pro category here at Sebring. But it was a scary moment for Kyle Marcelli, who almost threw away the pole position by getting out of the Acura. Thankfully, Johnny Knotts yelled to him, stay in the car. Now he has been cleared to come down. You'll hear the Acura engine in the background as Antonio Garcia is the 2nd car in line. And now we've got the Acura here, so Kyle Marcelli will be getting out of this car, and we'll get a chat with the Canadian here first. This is a new experience for Kyle. Kind of exciting. Race winner. He's been on the podium before. Not as far as Sebring is concerned, but as far as IMSA WeatherTech is concerned. And so for Kyle, first pole position in this series. Very exciting day, especially for this entire team, because they come into this not as the big dogs, but as the self-proclaimed underdogs. And the first person he gives a hug to is the guy he won the Super Trofeo Championship with last year, Danny Formel, and now giving a hug to his crew chief, Nick, celebrating with the team. It's very much a family institution down here. We get Kyle to pop his helmet off and have a quick chat with the still young Canadian. Kyle, you've won races, you've been on the podium, you've never started on pole position in this series. How hard were you pushing for that honor?
Yeah, this is a first, and man, I was emotional. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a heat or it's an early morning or what, but oh man, it's super thankful to everybody at Wayne Taylor Racing, Racers Edge Motorsports, Harrison Contracting, the group out in Turn 5. I mean, this has been a long time coming. You know, the new rules in the series allow any driver to qualify, and that's kind of been fun and a perk. You know, Daytona was close for us, close to get a podium, and we had a power steering issue with 12 minutes to go, and so I think everybody rallied for this weekend, and man, what a fantastic start. Thank you to everybody.
Acura doesn't yet have a win at the Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, but a great consistency rate of finishing as far as no DNFs for any of the Acura starts. What is it about this car that just seems to handle the bumps well?
You know, it's a compliant race car. It's really good in the technical stuff, and Sebring's technical and Sebring's bumpy, and so this Acura NSX has been historically a great car here. As you said, it has not won the race, and neither have I, so we're looking to make that happen this weekend.
It sounds like a match made in heaven. Congrats on your first pole.
Thank you so much.
That's a good point, isn't it, Jeremy, that has given other drivers the chance to qualify. And I have no problem with them feeling emotional. I want my race drivers to feel emotional when they do something good. And he done good this morning.
He done good indeed. That was a great effort by Kyle Marcelli there. And, you know, you'd had to consider him one of the underdogs, I think, coming into this session. Certainly, as you talked about a few minutes ago, I think that's a fair description of that team coming into this event. But, you know, they've been flying below the radar screen a little bit. The BOP, I think it's helped him a little bit for this weekend, but you know, you've got to get the job done, and he certainly did that. It was a great effort. He's had a couple of fastest race laps before in IMSA WeatherTech sports car competition, but as Shea said, not yet a pole position until this morning. So hats off to Kyle Marcelli, really deserving young man. I'm thrilled for him.
Antonio Garcia, this is a familiar place for you to be at Sebring, to be at the head of the grid, pole position. Were you expecting this today?
I don't know. I mean, yesterday the car felt really good, I must say. After practice one, we were not quite where we wanted, but from practice two onwards, everybody seems to be fast. So Tommy, Jordan, so we have a good package for sure. I mean, last night felt good. We kind of tested before this little warm-up before qualifying. The car felt also pretty good. So I mean, I had it in the back of my mind that the car was good, and I would had a chance to go on pole, but you're always very careful with that. But I think it's the first GTD Pro for us, pole. So yeah, let's do another victory here. That's what Corvette likes here.
Yeah, I think Jordan got Long Beach pole last year, but it's definitely the first pole for here and 3 in 4 years. So we should start calling you a bit of a Sebring Meister. This track seems to like you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's true. I mean, GTLM, I was on pole the last 2 times, I think. And yeah, again, here. So I think, as I said, I think the car really suits this racetrack, and I think it's more to come because we love racing here, and yeah, obviously looking forward for the end of the race there.
Is it better now that you have the rest of the day off to just sort of enjoy and savor the fact that you got pole position before the race tomorrow?
I don't know. I wouldn't mind to race like in an hour, so we get it done soon. So it's a long wait until just 24 hours till we start. So yeah, a lot of things to think about, but obviously the car is good. So probably we just need to clean the car and that's it. Put in the truck.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, Antonio Garcia wanting to race today so he can watch the Sunderland-Luton match tomorrow. Obviously, that's why he... brilliant stuff from the Corvette Racing team. And Antonio Garcia has made a bit of a habit, hasn't he, of being in that pole sitter's box at the end of pit lane and talking to Shea Adam over the last 4 years. 3 times in the last 4 years, 2 GTLM and now the GTD Pro pole.
And yeah, we know we've talked about regularly the fact that the GTD Pro and the GTD non-Pro cars are all running to exactly the same specifications in terms of balance performance. So the order overall of these GTD cars, it's Chevrolet, Lexus, Mercedes, Acura, then another Mercedes, then Aston Martin, then a Ferrari. So that's what 6 manufacturers in the top 7 and covered by just over half a second. But Antonio Garcia, he was 2.5 tenths quicker than Jack Hawksworth in second position. So super tight there. And I think after Daytona was a bit of an anomaly in terms of GTD and the balance of performance. There were several cars that were really not on a par with the rest at Daytona, but that seems to have been rectified to a large degree now. And I think we're in for a cracking race tomorrow, and I wouldn't count anybody out of this race on Saturday.
And if we go down to 9/10 of a second, that's 12 cars covered there, and all bar I think the McLaren in that in terms of the manufacturers. We did for a moment, just before the checkered flag came out, have 3 drivers on 1:59.944. We ended up with Michael Grenier and Aaron Thielitz still on that. As Jeremy said, Mickey Grenier for Team Court got the time first, so that's why he's got that position. And I think Kyle Marcelli had that time at one stage as well, but then improved to get that pole position. 1:59.714 for Racers Edge Motorsports. They're not at the moment a full season team, that number 93 car, just in the Michelin Endurance Cup. So as it stands, we won't see them again until July after this weekend and the Sahlen's 6 hours of the Glen. So that was interesting, wasn't it? That was interesting. So Chevy, Lexus, Mercedes, Acura, Mercedes, Aston, Ferrari, Mercedes, Lexus, Porsche, Ferrari, BMW, Lamborghini, BMW, McLaren. That's your top 17.
And that is a new qualifying lap record for GTD Pro. It was Daniel Serra who held the mark before at 59.414. So by almost a tenth of a second, 59.315 then for Antonio Garcia. And that number 3 Corvette, the new standard in GTD Pro. The GTD mark was 59.714 today by Carl Marcelli. The record, as I said before, goes back to 2018. Different tyres, of course, back then. So you could talk about that. But last year's pole was a 59.763 for Zach Robichon in GTD. So fractionally quicker than that for Carl Marcelli.
And our next session about to begin is slightly different than it has been in the past because we are having the LMP3 and LMP2 cars out on track at the same time instead of a split session for the LMP3s out by themselves and then the P2s running around with the GTP cars. I like the idea of this. Now, who can qualify in this session? It is regulated. You need to have a silver driver under the age of 30 or a bronze driver if you are an LMP3 machine. So we can look down the entry list and see who is applicable for those opportunities. opportunities. But in LMP2, it's simple. You must have a bronze driver, and they must do the qualifying. So we know who's going to be seeing the track first as the green flag waves, and John Ferrano is going to be the lucky man with clear track ahead of him for the number 8 Tower Motorsport. In the number 35, we have Francois Hérault, and the number 11, the team car for TDS, is Stephen Thomas right behind him. Dennis Anderson is the pilot of the number 20 for High Class Racing. Ben Keating, a man to watch here at Sebring, very, very accomplished as far as pole positions are concerned, is of course by the wheel of the PR1 Matheson machine, number 52. And another car, I'm just going to throw this out there to watch. Last year in qualifying, one Mr. Gar Robinson was very impressive in the number 74 Riley machine. He once again is behind the wheel of that orange and blue LMP3.
Thank you, Shay. And again, my previous comments about fast laps coming in, I'd say again, lap 3, possibly 4 onwards. These cars with a little more aerodynamic downforce, that will allow them to put a bit more energy into the tyres through the faster corners here to generate some surface temperature on the Michelin slicks. Depending on which drivers you talk to, weaving around to try and get heat in the tyres, or accelerating and braking seem to be the best two ways. I've always been an accelerate and brake or drag the brake sort of person, but that's because I'm always petrified that if I'm weaving backwards and forwards on cold tyres, I'll throw it off before I even get to the green flag or the qualifying part of the run, because I don't have any talent. Can't say that here. Tony's Kazimis just gone out for RV Motorsports.
Happy birthday, Tony's.
God, having your birthday on St. Patrick's Day. Double excuse for a bit of a party.
It will be if he gets the pole position.
Oh, yeah. Well, RV Motorsports and the Riley team were absolutely duking it out. And of course, we've got the bronze-rated drivers here. So it'll be Gar Robinson. No slouch, by the way, in the 74 car. I expect him to be around. Watch out for Ben Keating for PR1 Matheson Motorsport in the number 52. That's an LMP2 car. So what have we got? 18 cars, 19 cars out on the circuit. 16 at the moment. Apologies.
Should be 70.
Yeah.
Because we've got 9 LMP3s and 8 LMP2s.
So just getting again up to pace. By the time you start getting the fastest lap, you're down to around about 9 minutes. So it's not going to give you a lot. These quick fire sessions, I have to say, absolutely superb. And what you don't want to do is blow the pit lane speed limit, and that's exactly what Anthony Mantella has done for AWA. He'll have to come back through. It was only 1 kilometre per hour, but a speed limit is absolute, and that means he'll have to come back down through the pit lane. So he's going to lose effectively a couple of laps here, Jeremy, in his warm-up cycle of the Michelin tyres.
Yeah, and you get sort of warnings and tickings off in the first couple of sessions of practice, but come qualifying and then again in a race, as you say, it's a zero tolerance. So you've used up any wild cards you might have in terms of getting away without a penalty.
So the car's not yet up to pace. Nobody's put a flying lap in. We've already had 4 of the 15 minutes in beautiful weather. Temperature just creeping up a little bit. 20 Celsius in the air is 68 Fahrenheit. And it's 66 Fahrenheit on the track, which is 19 Celsius. So just coming up a couple of 3 degrees. 2 classes out on the track at the moment. Francois Hérault for TDS in the LMP2 number 35, the quickest so far with a 55.2. Jeremy Shaw, what are we aiming at here in terms of qualifying times?
Well, the fastest lap we've seen so far this week with Christian Rasmussen yesterday. Of course, he's a pro driver. He did a 50.6. The fastest by a non-pro, I reckon, was George Kurtz, actually, a 51.1. which is at least that's what the scoring says. Assuming they had the right chip in the car at the time, or the right plug in the car. So we'll see. But I would think anything in the 51s would be particularly good. I'd suggest more likely the pole would be in the 52s. Last year's pole position here in LMP2 was Ben Keating at a 49.9, but the car's been slowed down since then, haven't they? So yeah, we're not going to get close to that.
Gar Robinson, as predicted, quickest in LMP3 at the moment, a 58.5, so still a wee bit of time to come. I do like to see the P2s ahead of the P3s, ahead of the GTs, and we're just starting to filter those through now. 9 of the 17 cars that have now all been out on track are ahead of Antonio Garcia's time. He was the pole sitter in GTD Pro for Corvette. If you are just joining us live in sound and vision here in the States and abroad, no subscriptions, no sign up, no details required. IMSA.tv and via the drop down menu at the top left of IMSARadio.com. Every single qualifying session for the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship again this season available to you without blocks or breaks. And plenty of other IMSA content over the weekend as well that you can see at each event. We had both of the Porsche Deluxe Carrera Cup races. That will continue through the season again. No subscription required. Idemitsu Mazda MX-5 as well. Exactly the same. Some of the best racing at any IMSA event you can follow live. And if you're outside the US, of course, you'll be able to see the whole race for the 71st annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring on Saturday. We'll be on the air just after 9 o'clock to bring you the Michelin Countdown to green flag at 10:10 local time. That's 2:10 in the UK, 3:10 in Europe on Saturday afternoon. And all of that, as I say, available to you. Here in the US, it's the NBC team headed up by Lee Diffie and the rest of the gang. Townsend Bell in the booth as well as Calvin Fish, Brian Till, Kevin Lee also involved as well.
François Heriot is doing a super job in that number 35 car for TDS Racing. He's just gone purple again in Sector 2 and in Sector 3, so improves the time of 51.9 for the Frenchman. That's really, really good effort.
We've not seen anything like that this week, Jeremy, have we?
No, well, we have from the pros, but not from the from the non-pros. No, that's exactly. a really good job.
I think the track conditions are about perfect at the moment. It's taking nothing away from François Heriot. You've still got to drive the car. I think we're going to see some stunning laps in GTP in their session, which will start in about 15 minutes. George Kurtz up to second for the crowd strike by APR 04 Orica.
Yeah. So Ben Keating back to third, and generally speaking in LMP2 we see Ben Keating and Stephen Thomas going at it, don't we? But right now Ben Keating's third and Stephen Thomas in the second of the TDS cars, car number 11. He's down in 5th place at the moment. He won't be happy with that.
It's Andretti Autosport, the number 36 Ligier. Two different chassis in LMP3, Ligier and Duquesne, formerly known as Norma. It's all Oricas in LMP2. It's Glenn von Berlo for Andretti Autosport, the 36 black and white car, with a 55.6. In fact, goes quicker, 55.2, taking 0.4 of a second out of his time. Extremely bumpy through turn 17. As we know, sometimes only parts of one Michelin tyre touching the ground as George Kurtz continues.
55.2, that's a heck of a lap from Glenn van Berlo. The fastest time yesterday was by Dakota Dickerson at a 156.3. The qualifying lap record for LMP3 was Rasmus Lind back in 21 at a 156.001. So Glenn van Berlo has gone a lot faster than that, the 55.215 for the young Dutchman.
Hello to Alan Prosser, to Jerry Z, Jerry on the ground. Hello to Ace, GTX24, all tweeting in at us on at IMSA Radio. We'll switch over to at RSL_studio for the WEC coverage later on today, but for the moment our focus is very much on the last 4.5 minutes of this qualifying session for LMP2 and LMP3, and it's starting to hot up again. 4/10 at the top, the two TDS cars.
Yep.
Stephen Thomas just dropped in there ahead of George Kurtz. Ben Keating, strangely, not fighting here. He's doing double duty again this weekend. Oof. Down at turn 7, a race has broken out in qualifying, and pulling to the right, the John Ferrano driven Tower Motorsports orange, black and white car.
Massive lock-up for John Ferrano.
Yes, as he was being closed down on, I think he may have just taken his eye off the ball there. Actually, the headlamps were flashing on that car there. I think he might have hit the pit lane speed limiter as well as he was trying to go down the block. Dennis Anderson in the red, white and black Polar Seafood High Class Racing number 20 has gone around at the same point. It's very, very bumpy there in the braking zone. No ABS on these cars, of course, and very close. Gar Robinson almost clipping the front of the stationary cars. Underwaved yellows. That is not going to endear him to race control there, and spun the car. Now, Dennis has got to the apex, but he hasn't got enough lock to get all the way around, so he's going to have to wait now and watch the corner workers who'll be giving him the wave. If it's okay to move, and he just pulled out right in front of the AWA of Anthony Mantella.
Yeah.
My goodness, that was very close indeed. I don't think Mantella knew anything about that, if I'm honest.
What were you saying about Ben Keating?
Yeah, well, I know he's got us tuned in on 100.9, so I thought I'd give the man from Texas a little bit of a G up. And he's gone down to 151.7 and has a 10th on the field.
Excellent effort by Ben Keating then. So yes, it's for PR1 Matheson Motorsports, that wins car, distinctive livery on that car, heading down the back straight towards turn 7 and the hairpin. He's looking very stable under braking, gets that car turned in really, really nicely. He's got another good lap going here.
It's just getting better and better.
But Stephen Thomas has gone purple through sector 1 in car number 11.
Purple on the timing screen signifying the fastest lap of anyone in that class. Is, by the way, those of you here and further afield, anyone else slightly disappointed that Ben Keating's privately entered GTE AM Corvette in WEC is not in the wins colours? Hands up, hands up. Yes, that's everybody, yes. It's running in yellow. I want to see that car in the wins colours, Ben. Absolutely. So Ben Keating by a 10th from TDS, a TDS pair of Hero and Stephen Thomas, 35 and 11. They're about half a second between them. In
Thomas has got the bit between his teeth, coming down the back straight towards Sunset Bend. He's got a good lap here. He's got purple in sector 1, personal best in sector 2. What can he do through turn 17?
Coming to the line, got on the power nice and early there, Jeremy, didn't he?
Yeah.
Comes to the line with 1:10 to go. He'll get this one more lap.
Ooh.
Improves but his time, but not his position. 152.1, so he's taking about a 10th or so. No, he's about half the deficit to his teammate, Francois Hero, but he's not on the front row yet. In LMP3, it's still Andretti Autosport's Glenn van Berlo by a good margin, 1.6 seconds from Tony Kazimitz on his birthday for Ave. Then JDC Miller's Dan Goldberg is only another 0.1 of a second back, and 0.028 Gar Robinson. And down in 4th position, outside of row 2 for Gar. He'll be trying to improve that. Then Ari Baylock for Junior 3. Then the two AWA cars, Anthony Mantella in the 17 and Ori Fadani in the 13. Oops, Jeremy, for what?
Stephen Thomas going a little bit deep there at turn 7. He was purple through the first sector again, which is just before the braking area, I think, isn't it, for turn 7? But I think he lost a fair bit of time there going through the hairpin. Let's have a look at the replay here.
Bouncing around all over the place. The darker parts of the concrete is where the tyres are at or almost locking up, and yeah, he went really deep there. Just didn't get the braking, didn't get the retardation he was looking for. Stop and 60-second hold for Dennis Anderson. Well, there's not that much time. In fact, the checkered flags come out now. That was for the unsafe rejoin at turn 7. Dennis down in, well, 5th position. I don't know whether race control will penalise him for that, because they won't add that onto the next session, which will be the... actually, that'll be warm-up tomorrow morning, so they could carry it forward into that.
So a second consecutive pole here for Ben Keating then at Sebring, it looks like.
To the line
Stephen
now.
Thomas took the checkered flag, didn't he? He was...
Yes, he did. Hero has not. There goes Ben. Where is the 35 car? Coming out of turn 17 now. Jeremy's looking at the splits. There's a couple of cars on the front straight absolutely together as they go through. Hero has peeled off into the pits. So he knew, he'd have seen on his dashboard that he didn't have the split times. So it will be Ben Keating and Glenn Van Berlo to speak to Shea Adam at the end of the pit lane. Another quality piece of driving. I'm sure Ben stung by the fact he didn't get pole position in GTE AM in the WEC yesterday. If you missed that, our archive is available. It was a great session for all 3 qualifying groups in WEC yesterday. Go to radiolemans.com. The free archive is there. You can listen on demand or download it. Absolutely phenomenal in all 3 classes, GT, LMP2 and the hypercars. So a bit of a victory lap, if you will, for the pole for Ben Keating in the Wins livery. Very distinctive. It's one of those classic colourways, isn't it, on a race car? So GTP's to come, but not until we have spoken to our 2 pole sitters. Some cable ties going on to the front of the number 60 Acura. Sure what that's holding on. That car and its Acura stablemate, number 10, Wayne Taylor Racing with Andretti Autosport machine, both with electrical issues there. Yesterday, that caused them to go dead stick out on the track. Upgrades, as Jeremy said, being applied to software and systems between Daytona and here. You will have seen there was a reasonable amount of controversy about the car that crossed the line first at Daytona regarding minimum tyre pressures and the manipulation of the data going back to IMSA and Michelin. We did approach Mike Shank for a comment on that. He declined to speak about it, so we respect that, but just so you know, the approach was made by our pit reporters. Ben Keating, pole sitter for LMP2. Shea Adam is down at the end of pit lane, which is where the celebrations are starting.
And for Ben Keating, this is almost a bit muted of a pole position celebration. I love the new helmet that he's got. It is so sparkly with the Wins colors on it. It is magic. And for Ben, this is awesome because last year it was pole position for both. Yesterday, you got a little bit more fired up because you didn't quite get the pole position. Did that give you the added inspiration to try and get the LMP2 pole position here today? Once again, at Sebring International Raceway. I know it's a track that you love and thrive at.
Yeah, it was really, really close. It's much in both classes. It was both series. It was a lot closer this year than it was last year. I had a pretty big margin last year, and for whatever reason, Sebring, the track changes so much for whatever reason, but it's taken me longer to get comfortable out here in both cars, for that matter. Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect to do a 51.7, and I didn't expect to have someone 1200ths behind me. Yeah, it was all really, really close. I had one better lap going, and it locked up in turn 10 and went off track. And so, I was giving it my all, that's for sure.
I've just got one question for you because I love the new colors on the helmet. Are we going to see that Corvette at some point in these lovely Wins colors?
I don't think so. I think it's Corvette Racing's 25th anniversary. It's a big deal for them. I'm just honored to be in a yellow number 33. So I got my number, but they can keep the colors. Wins also owns Rain-X, so it makes for a nice yellow Rain-X car.
Well, congrats on another pole position.
Hey, thanks, Shay.
A couple of people, including Dave Alcock, saying, how are we going to recognise Ben Keating's GT AM car in the WEC if it's not Wins colours? Glenn Van Berlo, Andretti Autosport, pole position in LMP3 for the number 36.
Glenn, congratulations. It only took you one race start to then get your first pole position. How hard were you pushing out there?
Yeah, I was pushing pretty much. Yesterday was quite limited in terms of driving time, so today I had to put it all together. But the car was just on point. It was really, really good, especially on the peak lap. Obviously, with these temperatures, you have the peak already in the beginning of the quali run. But it felt really good. Obviously, tomorrow the points can be collected, but it's a good start.
How are you fitting in well with these Andretti Autosport crew? It's a different team than you ran with before.
Yeah, it's definitely a different team, but the guys are really professional. They have so much experience with this car, so I had a lot of confidence going into the team, and the guys give me a really good car. So yeah, let's see how tomorrow goes, but I'm confident.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And John, they've got the green on the car for the lucky St. Patrick's Day. There we go.
Yes, well done. Little dash of green. Big celebrations in this part of the world for St. Patrick's Day, Patron Saint of Ireland, of course. And it just strikes me, it's probably a good job that Glenn and his brother Kai aren't in the same category here, because they're terribly competitive between them. Right, we've not done this before and had a Seoul GTP qualifying. We had a Seoul GTP practice session at Daytona, but the weather didn't really play along for that one. So, Shea Adam, this is an open choice for all the GTP teams. Who are we going to see in this Fast 9?
Okay, well, let's start with the Porsches. Why not? In the camp down there for Porsche Penske Motorsport, we have the Mats. They won the GTD Pro Championship together last year, but now we've got Matty Campbell aboard the number 7 and Matthew Jaminet aboard the number 6, working together, maybe fighting it out for the pole position, more likely. In the BMW camp, we have Connor DeFilippi going for his second pole position at Sebring International Raceway. He got it back in 2018. That was in a GT car. Now he's going for the overall. He is aboard the number 25. And the sister car, the number 24, that would be one Mr. Augusto Farfus. So that will be exciting to keep an eye on. For the Cadillac camp, the number 31 Whelen Engineering Cadillac, of course, you've got the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who's won 3 times times here overall for the 12-hour, Mr. Pipo Derani. And in the 0-1, a guy who's been on pole here twice before, including last year with 1 win to his name. That would be the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Sebastian Bourdais. Do you see how there's a little bit of a theme there for Cadillac Racing? And for Acura, well, I can't tell you who's in the 60 because they're a little bit too much further down, but I would guess it's Tom Blomqvist, the man who's gotten several pole positions for that team over the last 12 months. And for the number 10, well, you've got a Ricky Taylor. You're going to plug in a Ricky Taylor, aren't you, for Konica Minolta?
Sure.
So those are our protagonists. Good luck trying to decipher which one of them is going to get pole position before the session goes green.
Well, on what we've seen so far, it would appear that the Cadillacs have a slight edge over the bumps here. Ever since I first saw the GTPs in the 2-day test after Motul Petit Le Mans last October, it seems to me that the Cadillacs, well, they were certainly using more curb. You don't use up the curbs here quite so much because they are quite aggressive, but they rode the bumps very, very well indeed. That doesn't seem to have changed as the development has gone on, and the chassis control from that car seems to be very good, and that gives them an edge here. You want the Michelin tyres in contact with the ground as much as possible to give you forward motion, of course. You can't get any grip if they're even just a couple of millimetres off the ground. So here we go, Jeremy. The stopwatch during the week tells us that perhaps there's a little edge for the Cadillacs, but I'm not counting anybody out. I just wonder if Porsche and the Penske Motorsport team have got anything. We know Nick Tandy leaves nothing on the table. If was it Nick that Shea said was qualifying that car? Oh no, it's the two Mats, of course. Yeah, sorry, Shea, thank you.
Yeah.
However,
it's going to be interesting, isn't it? Because the fastest lap, as you say, if you look at the sector times, it would be the Cadillac, but the fastest actual lap that's been turned was by the Acura of Tom Blomqvist, a 147.0. I would expect to go quite some way below that during this qualifying session now. Conditions have been perfect, no other traffic on the track. It's go time now.
There was a 45 in the GTPs on the track yesterday. If the sector times had been put together, that was Pipo Derani, but he bailed out of a very fast lap that he had going in the first two sectors. But if we added his third sector on, that was a 1 minute 45 all day, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. And what have the Cadillac and the Porsche teams learned from the WEC qualifying yesterday? Very slightly different specifications on the cars, mainly down to aero, but pretty darn close.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of data. There's certainly been a lot of data transfer between the WEC and the IMSA paddocks for those manufacturers.
And we should point out that the ACO guardians of the Le Mans 24 Hours and the FIA World Endurance Championship and their counterparts here at IMSA in the technical department, they have been exchanging data. The slight difference, as Jeremy was talking about there, is because in the homologation process, the effectively technical passport for the cars, the LMDH GTP cars that have gone to race in the WEC had to go through some wind tunnel testing to get some baseline data. Now for IMSA, that's done up at Windshire in North Carolina. For the WEC, that takes place in Switzerland at the newly acquired Audi Sauber wind tunnel at Hinwil. And there are slight differences in data coming out of that, which is why, even though those cars run at the same base rate and pretty much exactly the same in terms of power output from the engines and the hybrids, there are just some very detailed changes. The WEC cars run a tiny bit more draggy. The drivers tell us they can barely feel it, if at all. There's a couple of other things different. The scrutineering wiring looms are quite different between the two series, so it would make it not impossible, but not the work of a moment either, to change a chassis from WEC spec to IMSA spec, or indeed vice versa, which is going to make things quite interesting actually when we get to Le Mans and Action Express and Chip Ganassi are sending their IMSA cars to Le Mans to compete under the WEC rules, and then they've got to get them back from France and back into IMSA spec, rebuilt after a 24-hour race before the sale in 6 hours of the Glen in early July. So logistically, that's probably as much of a challenge as running the Le Mans 24. I have no doubt that they are already talking about it. So, counting down, is this a slightly longer session, Jeremy? Is this a 20-minute session for the GTPs? It must have been.
Good question. Yeah, I guess it is.
So, coming to the line.
Thing at Daytona, didn't we?
Yeah. Coming to the line, number 10, Acura going down towards turn 1.
Yeah, 20 minutes, you're
Just trailing the throttle and then back on it again. Tom Blomqvist has gone through in the 60 Acura. Connor De Filippi for Team RLL in the number 25. These are still, I mean, they're very quick laps, but they are still preparation and tyre warm-up laps. Down towards turn 7 for Ricky Taylor. Applies the throttle so progressively there. Easy to bring traction on the rear end of these cars with the hybrid and the internal combustion engine running on down there at turn 7. That's Connor De Filippi in the 25 BMW from Team RLL. Just locked it up on the bumps, decided to come off the brake straight away so as not to flat spot the tyres. Went straight on down the escape road. So that's a lap that he's not going to improve on. There goes the number 7 Porsche Penske Motorsport car, swapping between WEC and commentary for IMSA here. A red and white number 7 can easily be called a Toyota Gazoo racing car as it flashes.
Really good lap going here for Ricky Taylor. Really good lap for Ricky Taylor.
He looked really smooth, didn't he, through turns 7, 8 and 9 there. We have the ability to look at a couple of the onboards as well in the Global Broadcast Centre. Cross the line, 1:46.1. Not sure that's going to be enough, Jeremy. It's good. It's very good in the context of what we've seen this week. And at the test, the best time at the test was a 46.5 or 6 from memory. But I'm not sure that's going to be good enough today in what are nigh on perfect conditions. 19 Celsius on the track, 21 in the air. That's 70 in the air and 66 on the track.
It's almost a full second quicker than anything we saw yesterday, but I think you're right. I think we're going to see even more than that in these next few minutes here. 146.9 for Blomqvist, 151.5 for Connor De Filippi, but that included that runoff deep at turn 7. So he'll improve upon that. Ricky Taylor has just gone a tenth or two faster through the first sector, which is less than 10 seconds. It's a really short sector. I guess actually the timeline is even before turn 3, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
yeah. Just after turn 1.
You're still actually on the curb at turn 1, I think, when you go across the timing line.
Yeah.
So Blomqvist into second, Connor De Filippi into third. Acura, BMW M hybrid. Haven't seen a Cadillac time. Hello to Jesse Young in Australia, where it's past 1 AM in the morning and watching on there. Can a caddy take pole, says Jesse. I did predict that, didn't I, at the Bathurst meeting back in February. Got some friends who were tuning into the WEC for the first time down there. Overnight watch and listen parties. Thanks, Jesse, for tuning into IMSA Radio and the Radio Show Limited network of audio and visual channels. Shea Adam down in the pit lane. Of course, the other thing that's different about this session, 20 minutes and you can take a second set of tyres, which we saw at the Raw before the Daytona 24. Only one team did it there.
And they got pole position. And now the same tactic is being employed by Wayne Taylor racing with Andretti Autosport, because Ricky Taylor into the pit lane. Fresh Michelin, just the left front. They have changed now. They're doing the other ones. And that was interesting. It was a bit of a delay before they decided to change all 4 of them. But yes, indeed, 4 new sticker Michelin tires going onto this car. Let's see if it pays off here as well, like it did for the 60 at Daytona.
Well, advantages, you've got fresher rubber. Disadvantage, you've got to bring them back in and get the heat cycle onto them. And that's going to take about 2 laps or 4 minutes around. But with 11 minutes still on the clock, there's plenty of time to do that. And it is the number 10, Konica Minolta, WTR with Andretti Autosport team who have jumped first, which is exactly what they did at Daytona. There was then a red flag, remember, when Nick Tandy went off, so nobody else got to put their second set of new Michelin slicks onto the car. And it's important to note that these tyres are part of their race allotment, and it's been reduced again, Shea, this year. What are we down to now for the GTPs for qualifying in the race?
Stand by as I pull my notebook out from behind the back, and it is 16 sets for the weekend, but 11 for qualifying in the race. So this is the second set of tires that WTR with Andretti has used for this qualifying session. As away goes Ricky. So they're using 2, meaning that they have 9 brand new sets, whereas everybody else will have 10.
At the moment, Tom Blomqvist into the pit lane in the number 60 Acura as Ricky pops out into turn 1. He's right ahead of the BMW number 25. Conor De Philippi might just get by him as he's getting up to speed. Yes, he has. And it looks like Tom Blomqvist is going to get a new set of Michelin rubber as well. Yes, he is. There's half a second between those 2 cars at the moment. Pipo Derani's best of 1:53.0. That's not really there at the moment, but how's he on the warm-up cycle? Through goes Seb Bourdais, who's qualified the 01 Cadillac. That's the yellow-fronted car. We called that Cadillac Gold, didn't we?
Durrani second, 1:46.389.
Just after
Brazilian.
I said he wasn't anywhere. Thank you, people. 0.3 of a second, just under, between Ricky Taylor and Pipo Derani. I was just recalling the story the other day, the first time I met Pipo Derani. It was at the WEC Prologue test at Paul Ricard at Le Castellet in France many years ago. It was his first PT drive, and he was very excited to show me around the car. Car was up on the high jacks with the wheels off, being prepped. And he said, no, get in, have a go, get in. I said, Pipo, if I get in there, it'll be great, I'd love to, but you wouldn't have the use of the car for the weekend because they'd have to cut me out of it. What a great career he's having. Big slide out of tower turn from Sebastian Bourdais, drops the outer portion of the left-hand rear Michelin over the edge, but I don't think the whole tyre went into the dirt there. So Acura Cadillac, Porsche now in third with Mathieu Jaminet putting in a 1:46.2. I think that's the fastest Porsche lap we've seen this week so far. Jeremy, by a margin.
Yeah, I mean, they're all going at least a lap faster than they had been before, except so far for Sebastian Bourdais, who hasn't really put a lap together. He's only done 2 laps so far from the number 01 car, but everybody else is going faster. And Augusto Farf was just at the fastest time of all through turn 1, basically. The first sector, 9.656 seconds. Fractionally quicker than Ricky Taylor had gone. But Pipo Derani go to the top. Wow, there you go, 45.836.
Still on his first set of tyres as well. Now, not sure he's going to pit with just 7 minutes to go. That would make it tight. A 45.836. Outstanding work from the Brazilian. Bourdais at the moment in 8th, but he was the last car out, so he's only done 2 flying laps at the moment. So
yeah, interesting that, isn't it?
Yeah, hasn't pitted yet either. So he didn't go out at the same time as everybody else.
No.
So still time on the clock, 20 minutes, remember. Just to remind you, that 45.8, that would have put Pipo Derani on the outside of Rule 2 for the WEC later today. He would have bumped down the 51 Ferrari with a 45.874. So about 8/10 away from the pole set yesterday in brilliant conditions. Yesterday afternoon for WEC. Again, lovely track and air temperatures. I'm impressed that people still only used one set. As Sebastian Bourdais, we said, Jeremy, keep an eye. They were on a different strategy. 0.087 of a second away from the other Cadillac. And again, only one set of tyres used there by Bourdais so far.
Yeah, it's with only 5 minutes to go.
They're not coming in.
No, they're not going to come in now, I don't think, no. But
so Ricky Taylor,
slightly quicker laps, the top three.
Ricky Taylor, 56.2 last time around, because he's got that new set of Michelin slicks on. No tyre choice here. One construction and compound for everybody. It is the harder of the two compounds, or big lock up for Taylor down at turn 7 and into the wall goes the Porsche Penske Motorsport. That's the 7 car with the black stripes over the top, and that's Matt Campbell who's gone off at turn 1.
Wow.
That's the second time we've seen Matt Campbell have a drop. How unusual is that? That's going to stop the session, and that's going to put Pipo Derani on pole position. There had been a mistake before that by Ricky Taylor at turn 7. He might have been able to recover from that and get another lap, but we don't know if he damaged his tyres. This is huge news that the two Cadillacs will lock out the front row for the 71st annual Mobil 1 12 Hours of Sebring, having used one set of Michelin tyres fewer than Konica Minolta, Porsche Penske Motorsports number 6, Meyershank Racing Acura number 60. So that is important to know for the race.
Yeah, so definitely the strategy worked for Meyershank Racing in Daytona. It did not emphatically here at Sebring. And Pipo Derani, for the second time in 3 years, will have the pole position. He was on the outside of the front row last year, the pole the year before, and the pole now. Brilliant effort by the Brazilian there in car number 31 for Whelen Engineering.
Matt Campbell is out of the Porsche number 7 coming through. He touched the inside wall. Touched the inside wall at turn 1 with the left rear of the car. That just unsettled the machine, unsurprisingly put it into a sideways slide. That's a big impact to the back of that car. A big impact. We know these cars are strong. Nick Tandy bounced the sister car into the tyres at the Le Mans bus stop chicane in his qualifying effort. You go very close to the outside wall and then cut across to the inside wall where the Lexus area is. That was actually more than a slight glance. Yeah. So a little bit of a miscalculation there from Matt Campbell, just hitting the inside wall. That's on his side of the car as well. So if it looked close to us from the trackside cameras, and he'll have felt that, he may have actually broken the rear toe link of the car, as he, hard to see whether that was broken before he hit the tyres, but it certainly changed the trajectory of the car, and it's rubbed off the Rolex branding and put a wheel mark on that apex. Well, we know where the apex of the corner is now, Jeremy, for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Matthew. The Campbell line not working. Sarah Bovey yesterday getting close to the exit of turn 17, but not that close. Checkered flag is out. Thank you, Tony. In the sunshine. And that will end the session. So work to do for Porsche Penske Motorsport. 7th position for that car. He lose that lap, of course. He lose 2 laps because he caused the red flag. So that car will drop to the back of the field in GTP. So 2 Cadillacs, an Acura, a Porsche, an Acura, a bit. Where was the second BMW? Oh yes, there it is. Yeah. What? Why? Just the one Ganassi Cadillac here, of course. They had 2 at Daytona, so 8 cars in that session. People taking pole position for Whelen Engineering.
Yeah, and all of the cars going, all 8 of them go faster than anybody managed yesterday. The quickest time yesterday on lap times was a 147.0. Colin De Filippi will be 8th on the grid, a 146.9. But what an effort that was from Pipo Derani.
People out of the car. Live coverage free here in the US and around the world on IMSA TV, and pictures on the IMSA radio site as well via the live video tab to the top left-hand side drop-down menu. Good to have your company. If you are here at the track, 100.9 FM, and also for the 2 remaining races of the weekend, we'll take over 99.1 in the Central Highlands region here, thanks to WWOJ for allowing us to annex their frequencies. So the Brazilian driver once again, Jeremy Shaw, proving his class. Good tactics by the 2 Cadillac teams. Sebastian Bourdais maybe had one more lap in those tyres because he'd only completed 5 laps, so 4 flyers, and probably only 3 of those were at any kind of representative speed. If from what we'd seen from anyone else, there might have been one more for Bourdais. He ends up 0.087 of a second, so just underneath a 10th away from pole position. 145.8 and 145.9 for the 2 Cadillacs, 31 from 0-1. Row 2 will be split between Acura number 10, leading the championship coming in here this weekend for Konica Minolta, and the Porsche 963, number 6 of Porsche Penske Motorsport. That will be your front 2 rows as we come to green for the 71st running of the Mobil 1, 12 hours of Sebring. And that should give us an interesting run down to turn 1 with the 2 Cadillac teams presumably having a wee chat before the green flag. They don't want to be getting in each other's way there with the hard-charging Acura and Porsche behind them. They'll be, I would not be surprised at all if there was a little bit of internecine chat going on there between the 2 bow tie entries. Shea Adam is standing by at the end of pit lane. The clear-up continues at turn 1. That was a significant hit into the wall for the Porsche 963 number 7. That car is now on the back of a flatbed and coming back with rear end and left-hand side damage. Shea Adam has our pole sitter for the 2023 71st running of the Mobil 1. 12 hours of Sebring. It goes to Whelen Engineering, Action Express, and to Pipo Derani.
And for Pipo, this is pole position lucky number 7 in the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship. Pipo, when we talked yesterday, you talked about looking forward. This is the first pole position for this new Cadillac. How important is it that it comes here?
Yeah, actually, I haven't thought about that before, but no, it's just, you know, it shows that we've been working hard since Daytona. I think we showed some promise there, but we were perhaps a little bit behind some of our rivals, and now to get here with a very competitive package, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's good to be on pole. It's been a while, and we've been coming back from a very difficult season last year, and so slowly, you know, step by step, getting back to what Action Express knows how to do it. And yeah, we wouldn't be here without the support of Whelen and Cadillac. So Really happy to be here with these guys, to be on pole, second race of the season, make a few points for the championship. Not that they count much, but when I won the championship, they made a difference. So yeah, enjoying the moment. It's a long race, but it's good to be on pole.
How important is it as well to have another Cadillac alongside you when the green flag falls tomorrow?
I mean, it's great. It shows that, you know, we've been working alongside Ganassi on making sure this car gets improved, and so this shows that we've been on the right path. Yeah, it's good. It's a Cadillac 1-2. I mean, it couldn't be any better than that. So looking forward to the race.
Will you and Seb have a chat beforehand to try and work out a strategy going into turn one? I mean, they're two different teams, but the same manufacturer at heart.
I mean, it's a long race, you know. It's about getting to the end. We might chat with each other, we might not, but you know, Seb has always been very fair in everything he's done, and fighting with him, it's always straightforward. So I'm sure we can go over a coffee later today, or you know, fist bump with each other. It's Cadillac 1-2. That's what matters, and that's what we want to do for the race.
We'll see you for warm-up tomorrow. Congratulations on another pole.
Thank you.
Now, if they both end up in the wall in turn one, lap one tomorrow, we'll remind him of what he said there. I'm only joking, of course. Pipo Derani, another pole position for Whelen Engineering Racing Cadillac, and they lock out the front row with Sebastian Bourdais, a tiny tick of the clock in second. Row 2 will be Connington Minolta Acura number 10 and Porsche Penske Motorsport number 6. Interesting coincidence that two of our sessions today ended with red flags caused by Porsche factory drivers putting their cars in the wall at turn number 1. This is going to be very interesting. We really saw the times that those cars are capable of in qualifying today. And tomorrow we'll see them in warm-up, which will be a systems check. And then it's 10 past 10 for the green flag. We'll be on air in plenty of time before that, with the Michelin countdown to green, our Porsche keys to the race, and Jeremy will give you the full field rundown as well in that Michelin countdown to green. That's the end of the IMSA WeatherTech Sports Car Championship for today. Don't go too far away though, and if you're listening outside of the track, switch to RS1 now as we'll begin our build-up to the 1,000 miles of Sebring, round 1 of the 2023 FIA World Endurance Championship in a little while. Shea Adam was down in the pits, Jeremy Shaw and John Hindhaugh in the booth. It's Cadillac on pole position in GTP. PR1 Matheson Motorsport, Ben Keating, the number 52, has the LMP2 pole. Glenn Van Berlo and Andretti Autosport for LMP3. And the best of the GT category cars was Antonio Garcia and Corvette Racing. They'll start at the head of their respective classes for the 71st running of the Mobil 1. 12 hours of Sebring tomorrow, and it'll be all live here on IMSA Radio and IMSA TV.